All right, well, thank you all for coming. Make sure that your mics are muted. We have a packed 30 minutes planned, and we want to try to finish the presentations within 30 minutes, but you are welcome to hang around and have some longer discussions, ask questions at the end, add questions in the chat box as we go along, so that way we can capture those and the presenters can respond to those as necessary. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here today. I know this is a very busy, hectic time of year, but if you're like me, you're already starting to look at summer and fall classes and maybe the idea that you will need to teach more than you had been online, or at least now you have a little bit more of a head start to do so. So we have some excellent presenters. I put this together.
I don't, can we forward that to him?
Can you all mute your mics, please? And that way it'll help us as we get going. Thank you. So we have Karissa Greathouse, and you can see her title. We have Breanna Harris and Michael Zahn. So we have a nice representation of multiple colleges and roles and responsibilities. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it over to Karissa to get us started.
Good morning, y'all. Let me share my screen here real quickly. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to participate. When Dr. Meyers originally sent the description of this webinar, a couple of phrases jumped out to me. Make it easier for the students to navigate your course and find the resources they need. So I kind of started making a list of some things that I've seen that they're small things that you can do in your class when you're organizing your Blackboard course. Small things with big results. And so that's the title. That's what I came up with that I was going to talk about. And again, these are small things. So then I broke it up into things that you want to do before the semester begins, and then some things that you want to do during the semester. And I'm going to be using, as an example, a course that I helped Dr. Carlos Villalobos design last summer, and we were both real pleased with the design of this. So I'm going to be using this as my example. But the very first thing I want to talk about is cleaning up your course menu. And that may seem like a no-brainer, but I've seen a lot of courses that the course menu didn't get cleaned up. And what happens is at the beginning of the semester, you copy your course, maybe from a previous semester, and the menu, all of the things that you copy, go to the bottom of the course menu. And so you want to take just a couple of minutes to move everything up so that it's in order. It's the order that you want it to be in. It's where the students can find things. I always think about it as these items are signposts for the students. They are going to guide the students to your content. They're going to guide them to information. Another thing that you want to do is go through your course, but specifically the course menu, and remove or hide anything that is obsolete or duplicated. You don't want to have things open for the students that they are not going to be using this semester, because they will find it. So that's just one of the things right at the beginning of the semester, before the semester begins, when you first start working in your course. The second thing is a strategic course menu organization, and that's why I wanted to bring this as an example. You'll see these top links right here on my course menu. There's my home page, which is where I am right now. My syllabus and schedule, not mine, but Dr. Villalobos. The announcement tool and my grades. These four things are informational. They are going to guide the students to certain pieces of information, but I put them at the top so that the students can find them really easy. The second section here, this is the course content. So here's their getting started link. This is where the students are going to go to, for the introduction of the course, etc. And then we have the course content. So the students are moving through it, but this is really easy for the students to find things. I also have a link here for quizzes and exams, assignments, and discussions. So this section holds course content and assessments, and then we have some communication, and then the resources down at the bottom. So being strategic in the course menu organization, it helps your students, it helps you. And if you organize it well, then it translates easily from semester to semester. The next point is to always update the availability and due dates before your students ever see the course, because there may be things that are open to them that you are not ready for them to see. So I'm going to show you something really cool, and you may or may not know about this, but in the course tools, there is a tool called Date Management. And whenever I open Date Management and run this tool, it shows me everything that I have in my course that has a due date, a start date, and an end date. And so if you have already worked on your schedule for this summer or for next fall, if you're really far ahead, you can go in and update these. You just click on the little pencil. It opens it up, then you can update the due date, the availability start date, and the end date. And once that's done, you just click this green check, and it updates it in the actual assignment. You don't have to go open up every single assignment and close it. You can do all of your date management right here in one screen. So this is one of the best tools that Blackboard has for you. Again, these are small things. You just don't want your students to be accessing things before you're ready for them to do that. The next thing I was going to talk about is detailed instructions. And this is important whether you're teaching face-to-face or in an online class or even a hybrid class. Detailed instructions are important. And I'll just show you an example of what I'm talking about. If I go to the assignment folder, you'll notice that all of these assignments have instructions on the outside of the assignment, but they may also have instructions inside as well. But this gives the students everything they need before they even open it, and they can look and see what your expectations are. And of course, we know that sharing expectations with the students that's huge. That is a small thing that you can do that has big results. Last thing before the semester starts, the last thing I recommend is checking the course from the student preview. And so whenever you open the student preview, you are actually seeing the course as a student. You can test all the links. You can take a quiz. You can turn in an assignment. And I recommend that you do these things. But test everything. Test all of the links in your course so that you know for sure that they're working before the students get in there. So that would be the last thing that you do before the course is released to the students. One thing about Student Preview, if you haven't ever used it before, if you click on the settings, it's going to say, do you want to delete the preview user or do you want to keep the preview user? I always keep it. And that creates a preview user for yourself in the Grade Center. And there's all kinds of ways that you can use that. But I always recommend that. And so I save that setting and then exit preview. Back to the course. Now, some things that you can do during the semester. Again, small things, big results. One is to have a practice quiz. If your students are gonna be taking exams online, or quizzes, then have a practice quiz early in the semester before they have to take one of those major weighted exams. Especially if you are planning on using Proctorio, you definitely want to have a practice Proctorio quiz so that the students can see how that software is going to work, make sure that all of their technology is working the way it's supposed to work. Same thing with an assignment. Have them turn in an assignment early in the semester. The practice quizzes and the practice assignment can be something fun. It could be something as simple as, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Or if you were going to travel anywhere in the world and money was no issue, tell us where you would like to go and why. So having the students turn in an assignment beforehand, again, that way when it comes to the things that matter, that have a heavy weight in the course, they're not going to have some of the technology issues that they might have had. Another thing is a practice student presentation, and I'll tell you why this is important. I was part of a student presentation just a couple of weeks ago with one of our Kasner faculty, and one of the students, it turned out that her microphone and her sound was not going to work, and she was supposed to do a presentation. If there had been a practice presentation beforehand, then some of those kinks might have been worked out. So if you plan on having student presentations, have a practice. Plan on having a practice before the actual presentation date. The very last thing, again, I'll say it again, small things, big results. Having a weekly check-in announcement. This is something that I recommend so highly, especially if you're teaching online. Blackboard has an announcement tool that's built into it. When you create an announcement, you have the option to send the announcement in an email immediately to the students. Some of the ways that you could use this weekly check-in is to recap what happened last week, what were the topics, what were the student learning outcomes. Give a shout out to some of the discussions. Wrap up the discussions. Praise your students for their hard work during the prior week. You can add friendly reminders about upcoming assignments and exams. Share examples of upcoming projects. Maybe a brief overview of what this week is going to cover. What are those topics? And help those students to bridge what you did last week and what you're going to cover this week. You know, make that bridge. Help them understand how these things work together in your content. This announcement tool, whenever you use this, as a weekly update and check-in. Of course, it's going to be archived with the course. They can always go back and look at it. But they're also getting the email that's going to be sent to their primary email address. So the announcement, the weekly announcement check-in, it's a small thing, but it can garner big results for you. And that's all of the tips that I had. I don't know, Dr. Meyers, if you want to have questions now or then whenever we're all done, maybe that's the best thing.
I think, yes. And I see that one has already been added to the chat. And so I think if we'll just keep adding those to the chat, then at the very end, we can address those.
Perfect. That's perfect. All right. I will stop sharing my screen now. And thank you all.
Well, I have a question.
Oh, can we hold on to that? Can you just add it in the chat box and we'll come back to it? I promise.
Okay.
Okay. Who's next? Breanna or Michael? Michael, thank you.
I'll get going here.
Hello. All right. So welcome. Hope everyone's doing good. Got through the semester. I'm going to run through some stuff and then show you an example from one of the websites that I designed for spring on what I do. And so going to cover organization, review some resources, assessment approaches that I've done, and a thing about just iterative. Like the first website you do is never going to be the one that gets, you just got to keep doing it over and over. So let me get to the website I want to show you. So one of the first things I do generally is, and it sounds like a duh thing, but I make a list. Even if I'm reusing another website, reusing it, but it's really important when you're prepping. But even when you reuse, as you know, if you experience Blackboard, you have to reset up assessments, you have to change dates and stuff like that. So it's good just to have a checklist. And I mean, it's literally an old fashioned, I write it down on a thing and make sure I got everything covered as I go through, old school. But you can do it on if you want to get fancy, you can do it in Excel or whatever. But so this is a site that I designed for online for the advanced social media practice class. This is a graduate level class that's part of our online graduate program. So one of the things I do from my background, I built a lot of websites over the years. So I always go to this type of focus on navigation and getting students to where they need to go. So I use a subheader and organize a lot, like Karissa was talking about, how important it is just to have people go through. So I do that. And then, so on the home page, it's overall throughout the whole site, since it's online and with our students asynchronous in the online program, having presence as much as possible with a video of yourself, a picture of yourself. So my homepage basically is, what I do is I have the syllabus. We all have to turn in a syllabus. I do include that actual official syllabus, but I break everything out of that syllabus so students can just get the stuff. So this is all parts of my syllabus. So it's like reusing work you've already done and showing it a number of different ways, which is the way people process and grab information is different. So some people want to look at that syllabus and print it out and have it. Others want to come up here and look at it. So I'll just put down what the book is with visual. And this is a picture I'm reusing off of our college website and my bio so that people have, hey, this is who this guy is. He's not just some person sending me emails, Then organization-wise, I do an overview. Again, this is from the, I do a video, an introductory video that I won't start because we don't have enough time. And I include the PowerPoint for it. And then a lot of this is stuff that's from, you're not going to believe it, but that noise is a guy cutting my lawn right now. Of course he comes now. So yeah, so I go through here, and this is stuff from the broken apart so you can get to the schedule really quick so people can see what's going on and all the information that's in the syllabus, which is just a quick way so they don't have to jump up and open up a PDF. And then I break the modules out because I bring the modules out to keep people. I've done this two different ways. I've like opened them all up and let people work at their own pace. I found that to not be good for engagement with students. So I just do them like I would do in the classroom. I've taught hybrid and I've taught inline. I just say, hey, first module's open, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, or whatever. And it opens up based on the calendar that I would have done if we were sitting in the classroom. Then I include all PowerPoint presentations. I do an introduction. I don't do full lectures anymore. I used to. Student feedback was they're not going to watch them, and that's data from YouTube would tell you that. So I just do, hey, this is an overview of what we're doing in this introduction, and here's what you should be looking for when you're reading and you're preparing the materials. But I do full PowerPoints as if I would do the presentation, so they can do it. And I put this class. I also had outlines for chapters. And I had a student give me some really good feedback, and he was a PhD student in the education department. And he's like, oh, I can open the PowerPoint. I can look at these outlines. So that's another thing to keep in mind is keep getting feedback from students. You'll get it at the end of the year, but sometimes when I have them on the, one of my things for the graduates classes is to talk one-on-one, at least 15 minutes with every one of them once a semester. And when I ask, what do they need to know from me? I ask questions like, hey, are you finding everything all right? what feedback can you give me? Is this working or not? And that's how I find out a lot of stuff that honestly they'll tell you, especially graduate students, they'll tell you. So, and that's how I make changes. So that's the website navigation, some of the things. Introduction video you should have, just introducing yourself. I put that with the course overview. So that just introduces who I am. Course module, introductions. I still include the syllabus, and I refer them to this other stuff. This is something else I learned. I didn't used to do this, but I found out people didn't click through. They didn't explore the website, even though I'd say, hey, information's up there and additional information. I also do supplemental resources. I usually put up podcasts and that are on the topics that we're covering, like big data. These are just optional stuff for students. I've gotten feedback that they liked it. Stuff related to our discussions. We do course discussions, and one of the ways that I do course discussions for resources and those it's a video medium, so I look for TEDx and TED Talks that I could use on the topics, and I use them in my discussions where they might read stuff. And since it's a graduate level class, I ask them to reference them. I give them, talking about instructions, I give a lot of instructions because over the years I've gotten called and I don't know what to do. So I tell them exactly what I want them to do in the discussion, that it's also, participatory. So there's a minimum participation level and you'll get a B. But if you go further, that's the extra stuff. And I ask them to cite. So I ask them to cite I give them material to work with to respond to the prompt, and I give them the videos that I want them to look at. In this case, this was like some videos from TED Talks here, as well as some stuff on ethics of data mining and using a lot of material. And is it the same? So the topics go a little bit beyond what we're covering in the book. This year, I also added certification assignments in this class. This is another great way to use resources. This is from HubSpot, which is a professional. They have HubSpot Academy, if you're in MySpace. It's like a CRM, and they have some non-branded stuff that just talks about how to use it, and they're closed caption, they're everything, they're perfect. So they're great for students to get extra information. So again, you don't have to create everything yourself. Make use of the other resources that are out there. Assessments. I know a lot of people were challenged with assessments. I do untimed reading quizzes just to make sure the graduate students are reading the material. So they're untimed, but I still use all of the things. And what I do, and I give them all this instruction right here. I do no backtracking, one question at a time. In this case, these quizzes are not timed, so they can literally open book and look up every question. But that's okay, because I'm really just wanting them to get information. These are like low stakes, but on high stakes, you can time them and everything else. Everybody's using respondents now, which is great because they used to not have that here. But here's one of the things I can tell you: if you're a Mac person, the respondents is for Word. So I have some resources, if anyone's interested, from universities around the country that have an online version of a Blackboard test generator. So it doesn't matter what your platform is. You put your file up in plain text, and it creates it, and you download it. So I used to use those because I didn't have access to respondents a number of years ago, but now since I'm a Word, a Microsoft platform, it works fine. What else do I want to cover? Assessments, security. Oh, continuous improvement. So like I'm always taking notes down during the semester and noting stuff. I change stuff when people say it's confusion. I go up and go, okay, I'll make some changes so it's an iterative development after a while, right? I give links to the library. I put all the ones that Blackboard gives you in an organized seat. So I use subheaders, and if anyone's interested in how, they're really easy to use, so you help and read. So you just call it out, communication. And this is great when you're communicating with them. And also part of presence is the announcements, like Karissa said. I want to wrap it up. I know I've been talking a long time. And reminders. I used to do only reminders for my undergraduate classes, but now I do them for everyone. Hey, the test is due this Sunday. It's just a quick note. You can use the Blackboard system. I have the announcements set up so they can access them. And I'll do a course introduction, like welcome to the class. And I generally always send these out along with posting them, just so they get them. So that's why I frame them like an email from me. So when they get them, it looks like an email, not just like some kind of weird announcement. Also, be very careful about the formatting, because clear all your formatting before you send these, otherwise it looks like craziness when students get them. All right, I'm going to stop because my guy is really cutting by the window right now. But I'm available at the end. Hopefully he'll be done cutting the grass and weed whacking, which is the worst. That's all I got for now, but I'm around. And if anyone wants to contact me,
Michael, if you want to leave your email in the chat box. Oh, right there.
Put my email down, but here's my contact information, and then I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can move on.
Great. And I think you all can see that there's so much that we can do, and it's a little bit like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, yes. So
But
if go over with anyone, some
yeah.
other outside of this, we have just a short time together here today.
Yes, I think it helps at least to point out the things that we can be doing in Blackboard, and then we can use the resources that are available on campus to learn how to best do that. So again, if you have questions, please enter those in the chat box. We're going to move on. Thank you, Michael. We're going to move on to Breanna and let her kind of talk about what she has planned, and then we'll finish this out with just lots of questions and discussion.
Let's see. Okay, so hopefully you can all see. Thank you so much for being here and for having me. I'll try to go somewhat quickly just so we can get to the questions. A lot of the things I wanted to mention were already covered by our previous awesome speakers. So just to orient you, this is my course. This is a undergraduate non-majors course that was face-to-face, and I moved to online this semester, obviously. There are 300 students, so there's not a lot of room for individual one-on-one interaction, but I try to structure my Blackboard page so that they can find what they need. So a few things I wanted to point out, just as everyone else had the kind of sidebar menu, mine's not quite organized the same way. I kind of like Michael's header idea, which I'm going to steal. But the first thing I want to point out is for the students and for you, things that are marked with this means things you can see, but they can't. So I hide stuff over here so I can quickly get to it, but they don't see it. We'll go to my welcome page first, I guess, just to show you this is, the kind of standard, just kind of tell them about the class. I use Collaborate Ultra for videos, so I kind of hid this for myself here so I could access it. And I could also access it on this panel to the side. I list the teaching team, so myself and my TAs, so that they can have contact info easily. In terms of making information easily accessible for students, I've found that students have a really hard time calculating their grade. So making easily accessible information for grading, I make an Excel grade template that they can fill out as we go, and it gives them real-time information. I think if I click here, you'll be able to see it. Can you see it? Yeah? Or no? Can you see you can't see Excel? No. Okay. Never mind. Don't know how to do that, but that's fine. Anyway, but the Excel calculator, I bet if you see it here, I don't know if you'll see it now. If not, then we'll just move on. No, you can't see that either. No. Okay. That's fine. But anyway, so I have this Excel worksheet that they can type in. So it really helps, especially if they're online and working through this on their own. I have information about office hours and how they can contact me. I also did a digital Q&A page this time, which is a Google Doc. It's a spreadsheet. It's totally anonymous. I thought I'd give it a shot. Not many students used it, but it might be a cool way to be able to interact with them kind of anonymously or as they go. Organization of my course is a bit different than the others. I chose to do one folder for the week, and everything they needed for that week was in that folder. So like this was when we were still in person, and it just told them what they could find in each folder. So the notes, readings, homework, their assignment, and then the quiz, just to give you an idea of what one looks like. The notes, the required reading, their quiz. I do a syllabus quiz so that they have to read the syllabus. You might also want to do like a Blackboard scavenger hunt quiz if you're all online. So you have them like, what section would you find this in? Or how do you submit assignment X? So that might be kind of fun to get them perusing the page. And then this was their in-class assignment, and I went over with them in class how to do that. When we transition to online, I kind of see down here where it's like, okay, coronavirus happened. Here are some updates. Here's a folder for welcoming us to online and how we move to that. I did a survey to get help, like input from the students on how to make this work. And then we got much more detailed with what they can find, when stuff was due, so forth as we went through. Reminder about the grade sheet. I did the links for the exam in that folder. As you can see, took their feedback on what they wanted that to look like. Did another check-in to get some feedback, ended up offering extra credit based on that. There they are. That's pretty much it. Again, just clear instructions for them to be able to see what's expected and when it's due. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to show you all. I mean, there's so much cool stuff that you can do in Blackboard easily, but I think that could be a whole nother lesson. One other thing I wanted to mention, though, about students being able to get things easily and be able to get the resources they need. There's 300 of them. I can't mentor them all. I can't talk to them all individually, honestly. But I do have a digital mentors folder that I just copy semester to semester and add to it. It's totally optional. It's just things for them, like how to succeed in college, what are office hours, who's a mentor, how do I email my faculty, should I do undergrad research, letters of rec, all that sort of thing. And in each of these folders, there's information and downloads that they can get if they want to use it. I know it's kind of information overload, but I try to just keep it here and tell them if they want it, it's available. And then last but not least, there is, can you see my switch screen? Yeah, perfect. Okay. The TLPDC has some kind of info from people in the Teaching Academy about how they did this transition to online. And there's a lot of really good tips in here if you want to look at some of those as on your own time. So with that, I think that's most of the things I highlighted on my notes to cover with all of you, and happy to take questions. I'll stop sharing. Thank you.
Breanna, thank you so much. And I hope you all can see that we have 3 very different perspectives who teach or help people teach in different areas. And we do have quite a few questions in the chat. So if you can hang around, I know the speakers are planning to be around, but we also want to be cognizant of your time. So no worries if you have to skip off a little bit early. I want to start going back. Someone had a question at the very beginning. Are there any questions before we? Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, my first and last name is not my real name. My name is Mahfouz. You can call me by Mahfouz. Well, now I have a few questions, and let me start from the end. So the first question is for Breanna. So that one thing I find it very interesting is that grade calculator Excel file. So that my students ask after the first midterm exam or before the final, how do I know what my grade is and how much I have to make in the final to get a B or A or something. So that grade calculator Excel file, does it, how do you organize that? Is it formula thing? Does it show every individual student separately what their grades are so far, whether it's a B letter grade or just the numerical grade?
Sure. Let me share my screen real quick. It'll just be easier to do it that way. Hopefully I can figure this out. Okay. I want to share this one with you this time. Share. Can you see it?
Not yet. Yes, now I see it.
Okay. Yeah. So this is, I've formatted this several ways. I do it every year. Every year gets better. Couple points. Students have no idea how to use Excel. Students have no idea how to calculate a proportion from a percentage. We even had quiz questions about this. That was a bummer that that's still a point of confusion. But anyway, try to be clear instructions on here, like enter your points in the My Points column. So on the syllabus quiz, the homework one, whatever. This is what really got them, and this is specific to my course, but they had to enter the proportion score for
Yes.
case studies and discussion, because we had different discussion leaders who offered different numbers of questions. Say one did 7 questions and one discussion leader did 8. In order to just calculate the same number, the students entered their proportion they got. I got a 7 out of 8, or I got an 8 out of 8. So I got a 1, like my proportion. And then I had it all set to multiply. I can show you so that it adds in, right? Oh, I got a 25 on the quiz. I got a 22. I got a 23. I got a 1. Or let's do a different one. I got 0.8. Points possible, they add in 25, 25, 25, 25. They're all 25, which makes it easy. It tells you their current points. It tells you how many points you need to get an A. Can you still get 1? Can you still get a B? Can you still get a C? So forth. Here's the percent breakdown for our course. I drop an assignment. Students always tell me that I'm hurting them. I'm like, I'm not. So here's the calculation. If we didn't drop the assignment, what your grade would be. So I try to mitigate a lot of questions about grading by using the sheet, although a lot of them can't enter the information properly. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it more straightforward. But I will, yeah.
Okay, this is very good, Mano. I'd like to have a copy if you can email me.
Sure.
Well, of course, it's not. I do it in a different way. Say that I just upload an Excel file different times in the semester with the students our number only, so that, and say that, well, you can see what your percentage at this point and what you have to make in the rest of the evaluation methods to get an A or get a B. But this is better. So is it every individual student specific? Or
yeah, they download it and fill it out with their own information from Blackboard. So like Blackboard will give them the score for their quiz, or Top Hat we used for the clicker points, so that they use that for their proportion, and then they entered it on their own, and they could keep track of how many points they need, and they can still earn their A, B, or C.
Okay, that's very good. That's very good. This is I need to just upgrade my, or I have to upgrade following your Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, Mathus, if they can't figure out how to run Excel, they can't be an ag econ major, right? Isn't that a requirement?
Yes, but if they are 3rd or 4th year students, they can. But if they're the 1st or 2nd years, so I make them. It is easy. But just before the final exam, I give them what their grade is, and I say, just in the final exam cell, you just enter any number you want and see what makes it a C or B or A. So how much you need to get. So that's easier. They do not need to know what Excel, how to use Excel. I say, just in the final exam, in this column, in this cell, that's in this row with your name or number, just enter any number, 70 or 75, and see what your grade looks like. So I have the formula in there in the spreadsheet, so they can enter different numbers and see, okay, what is the minimum I have to make in the final.
Right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Breanna.
Mathus. You bet.
Thank you.
One of the questions Tanya asked, and this is probably true for a lot of us, is that a lot of our students are using Blackboard on their phones. Do you have any advice for them, or things that you've seen work or not work?
I've seen that it doesn't really work on the phone. It's not great. It doesn't seem to be the same, and you can't see all applications on the phone that you can on, like if you're using the app. If you're using your phone through the website, that seems to work. But if you're trying to use the Blackboard app, you can't see a lot of the same things. So I tell them not to do that. I had to reset an exam because someone was trying to do it, and they're like, I can't see any of the graphs that you put up, like for us to answer questions about. So yeah.
I always tell them not to use it for exams, yet they use it anyway. It is a little kludgy because Blackboard is kludgy, let's face it. It's a platform built on years of code, and it didn't transition very well to world. So, I mean, what I would suggest, and you can make this suggestion, is, use it to check your grades or look at, something very quickly, but, don't rely on that for, everyday work on it. At least go to a laptop.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Carrie asked, is there a way to balance helpful information with information overload?
That's my question too. Yes.
Well, I mean, I've used to put less, and then I always get contacted. So I put more. I guess it's a matter of organizing it. When I try to present like instructions, like I showed some on my discussions, I do it with numbers and bullets, so it isn't reading whole paragraphs. So I guess think of the visual presentation of it, that they're reading on the screen. That's another thing to remember, is that, they're looking visually at a screen, not holding something in their hand. Also, that's why I do, based on learning styles, that's why I try to have, okay, if you want the syllabus with all the information in it and you want to print it out, hold it in your hands, you can. If you're a person who's used to screens and likes to go through screens and find stuff broken in chunks, I have that too. And it's just taken a while for me to do that. I don't think there's one good way of doing it, but that's how I approach it, is trying to think that people process information differently and will access it differently. So just make it available. And that's something I learned in designing websites, like, just put the information up there and let people get to it a number of different ways and in different formats that they want to use.
I get overwhelmed, so I try to put them in subfolders, but I know that people like different things. My students, I've gotten complaints that I post too many supplemental resources, and they get very angry because the little ding box on the top of their Blackboard, I have 500 new unread things. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do it too.
There's another question about the organization of the content. So Breanna, I noticed you have it chronologically as the semester goes on, they scroll down. I typically, and Tanya, I think, said that I try to always put like the thing that they should be working on now at the top. But I just wondered if there's some discussion about what you found to work or what you recommend.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Blackboard kind of default puts it at the end, so I've just kind of left it there. And that way they can scroll down, because especially when I started opening stuff, when we moved to online, like I'd open a folder, but then if I got done with the next folder, I'd open it a little early and I'd say, no pressure, just open for those of you who want to, or for schedules need to move ahead. So I figured if they're scrolling down, they can see where they left off. But I mean, I don't think that's necessarily, the end all be all. I think both are probably great.
Yeah, I don't use the scroll, as you saw from my example. I try to organize it much like chronologically. You can follow the schedule, and then here's where the information is as the modules open up, and they're from top to bottom, module 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's kind of a scroll, but they're at least chunked in different areas. And at first, I thought that was great. Then I got some feedback, mostly because people are used to the everything on one page coming down, scroll. But as I had students, I usually teach students in 2 or 3 classes, and particularly the graduate program. And then they said, hey, now I get this. So so they understand where everything is. So that's why I always encourage them at the beginning, is to explore the website. And then we have a one-on-one, especially the graduate students that I deal with. I don't get to do that because the undergraduate classes online are a little bit, that I sometimes teach, are a little bit larger. So I don't. But on graduates, it's capped at 20, so I can get on the phone with them pretty regularly. But I get on the phone with undergraduates or meet them on campus. If they're, a lot of them are campus students, I'll say, okay, just come to my office with your questions. But that's just to give them an overview of saying, what is it that you're not following or not knowing? And there's not too many. I haven't had that many, to tell you the truth. I know there's going to be now because of the switch this past spring. It was like everybody, even people who don't like that learning style, are up there. So everybody who's teaching classes that normally would have been face-to-face. It'll be interesting when we go to the hybrid, because I think that's actually a good step that they're thinking about doing in the fall, to do the social distancing.
Karissa, did you see there's a question about, I'm not sure what, Mike posed a question about the My Grades, what that looks like, and about does taking quizzes from student preview mode help you kind of see what the students are seeing?
Definitely. You can, if you take a quiz from the student preview and you save that data, then you can see, it helps you to see what it looks like in the Grade Center. It helps you to see what it looks like from the student's perspective. And when you have that grade for a quiz or an assignment, and you go to My Grades from within the student preview, then you're going to see exactly what the students are seeing. I just think it's real helpful.
Very good. There's a question here about how you address accessibility. And I mean, that could be enough. That's like a 8-hour workshop.
Yeah, it is.
But
Yeah.
what are your priorities in making sure that your course is accessible?
If you're using video, one of the things I strongly suggest is you upload it to YouTube. They have by far the best closed caption auto thing. You got to go in and fix things, but I've used different ones. That is, I think it's because they're listening all the time with Alexa and all of the videos that they've gotten. They've really trained that AI, but amazing. And then also because of there's been this issue with all the videos going up when everybody's using it, you can keep it there. Just make it private and put the link on your website, and then you're not overloading the Blackboard system with the video loading.
Right.
And so that's that getting that vaunted green thing next to your documents. That's if you're like, I used to put a lot of PDFs, and there's a trick I had for some PDFs that I really wanted that weren't mine, that I didn't create, that I got from a source, is if you have Adobe Pro, I just reverse engineer it. If I really, really want it, I reverse engineer it to Word, and then I clean it up and save it again as a PDF, doing all the accessibility stuff, the tagging and stuff that might not have been in that PDF that you found on a great website that had great information that students should see. Sometimes I just give them the links and say, here's a bunch of information you might want to follow. But I always try to see if they already got it accessible, but some of them don't. I mean, some good resources. So that's one way that I've taken some PDFs that I found from a good source, reliable source, and then just opened it back up to Word and then did what it needed to do and saved it back. So that seems to help.
Yeah, and one kind of quick, Courtney, I'll just jump in way, is to make sure that you can highlight text. That often will be an indicator within the PDF if it is accessible or not accessible, with people using screen readers and different things like that. If it's an image, so it's coming in as a JPEG, it's not going to be as accessible. It's just a trick that I've learned over time. So just wanted to chime in with that.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, just do the best case you can do. And then if sometimes, like when people ask for examples of paper, say we're doing APA style, I'll send them to OWL Purdue or another standard APA site instead of posting a bunch of examples, because they have them there and they're already done and they're accessible. And
yep.
You just got to get them to the information. You don't have to have it on your Blackboard website. That's my opinion.
Yep.
Have I overlooked any questions that were left in the chat, or does anyone else have any questions?
I'd like to get some more input, Courtney, from the speakers about student feedback. I can put Erika's kind of like, I can put the camera back on. And this actually is my Texas Tech Costa Rica office, because we're allowed to go back to campus, following white wall. I spend a lot of time, so kind of like, well, when we were still face-to-face, I like students who like to work on paper, they can work on paper, and I give them feedback like scribbling it down the traditional way, and they see it. Then like with programming assignments or like PDF submissions, I spend a lot of time putting kind of like text in the little feedback box on the grade assignment, and they never seem to read it. It feels like, and I'm not sure, kind of like, or I put little post-its on the PDF and for sure they're not going to see it. A lot of it has to do with them using their phones despite being told that they shouldn't. And just kind of like, so does anybody have best practices on how to make them read that feedback? Because I feel like I'm wasting my time and they're not getting why they didn't get the points. For sure, like if I give them all the points, they're not reading the feedback. So I understand that portion. But if there's any insight on how to best provide feedback, I recently went to kind of like sending them emails. I was like, okay, if I individually send them emails or to their TTU email about what they do, at least it shows up in their mailbox, and well, then they actively ignore it.
One thing I've done is before I don't type directly into Blackboard anything because it's just a I use that word again, kludgy thing for me. So I'll when I do my feedback on a paper or something, I'll write it in Word for myself, and then later I'll cut and paste it in the thing. But that way you have it, and you can do your email real easy, and you got them done at one. You know what I mean? It's just cutting and pasting. So that's one thing that I do, so that I just save it all in a Word file, each person's feedback, and then I put it in their feedback on Blackboard. But if I never had someone not read that, because I usually get an email right after I post something. But if you're having problems, then you at least have it already. You know, you're not doing work twice. You're doing it once, and you can just say, okay, here it is in a Word file for you.
Well, it's not like me not finding it. It's just kind of like them ignoring it.
Yeah.
Tanya, I can contact you too, and we can think of I have some ideas, and I can contact you and tell you some different ideas that I could share with you.
That could be a whole other session, because I took, so I teach web design, I teach graphic design type courses, and I've gone to recording Screencast-O-Matic 5-minute videos, and I put those on Blackboard via a link from OneDrive, and for each individual student, and then I turn on the little ticker that says, have you opened this file? Now, could they open it and never watch it? Sure. But then I call them out, and I am lucky that I only teach, 30 or less each semester. But Tanya, I got frustrated too, because I'm like, these are things that I asked you to fix 3 drafts ago. But I've discovered that students don't even know how to accept changes in a Word document, or to look at, like, they don't see all that. So a lot of it is just me having to step back and go, okay, when I was that age, did I know that was something I could do? Yes, I did know. If I didn't know, I can't assume that they know. We are running low on time. There was a question here about Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. So Dr. Echo, do you mean like you're in Blackboard Ultra and you're trying to play a video? Yes. I don't use Blackboard Ultra.
I did that.
You did that?
Yeah. So do you mean like, say you're lecturing, right, on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and then in your slides, you want to go to like a YouTube video or like, I don't know, McGraw-Hill video. So if it's online, what I found is that if you have your recording open, and before you start, if you open the video in the other tab, you pause your share file, you say, I want to share screen, you pick the screen you want to share. There might be an easier way, but this is how I did it. And then there's also a button that says share audio from web, screen share, whatever. Make sure you click that, because or else students will just see the video but not hear the audio associated with it. And I was able to do that and then go back to share my screen, my slides. And that was a way to embed YouTube videos or like publisher videos within my lecture. Again, there might be a simpler way, but that did definitely work.
So, and Carrie, I tried to address your question in the chat, and Karissa could probably give us more insight. And that gives me a good plug. Tomorrow at 11, we're having another webinar about recording video best practices at home. And I put the link to that webinar in the chat if you'd like to tune in. But I do want to take just a few minutes to thank the presenters so much. They worked really hard behind the scenes to put together some great tips and advice, and I was writing frantically during it. And so
to everybody.
We all, I think we all acknowledge that our online efforts are going to be ramped up a bit more for the foreseeable future. And so we might as well make it easier for us and for our students. Panelists, do you have any final bits of advice or things you'd like to share?
And it's just the process. Like I was saying, iterative development, just keep notes of what you're doing, see what's working, get feedback, and just change it every semester.
Exactly. Yeah, and feel free to email if you want any of the stuff or questions or anything like that.
Yeah.
By no means perfect what I have, but some things work well, some things don't. Happy to share.
Yeah, I'm always happy to help as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the date management tool is going to save me a lot of time.
So much time. Had no idea. So much time.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for joining today. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Get those grades in. If you haven't, have a drink if you have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.